Kana goes slow. One day on Sodor, Thomas was trying to beat Kana in a race. He tried to beat her every day, but never did, as she was so speedy. "I just want to win once, just one time," grunted Thomas as he sped as fast as he could. Suddenly, Thomas noticed he was ahead. He sped to the finish and then looked back. Kana had stopped. Kana had to be at Vickerstown by sunset, so Thomas decided he would pull her there. It was a struggle to get moving, but after a bit of puffing, Thomas managed it. The problem was Thomas couldn't go very fast with the effort of pulling Kana. He soon had a long line of annoyed engines behind him. "Please pick up the pace, Thomas," said James. Thomas decided to get off the main line and use one of his secret shortcuts. "When you slow down, there's all kinds of stuff to see," said Thomas, as they chugged through a forest filled with bright butterflies. Next, they made each other laugh by making silly reflections in the river water. "Ha ha ha!" laughed Thomas and Kana. Next, they met a cow sleeping on the track and had to make a noise to get it to move. Then they found a flowery meadow, which Kana loved so much they fell right in it. At Vickerstown, a troublesome truck asked them why they had taken so long. "We stopped to check out the trees and flowers and our reflections in a pond," replied Kana. She had loved slowing down and seeing so many wonderful things. Once Sandy fixed Kana, she was back to zooming again. "Thanks, Sandy, and thank you, Thomas. Want to race home?" smiled Kana. "Actually, I want to show you one more thing," replied Thomas. "You're so fast, you're never in Vickerstown at sunset." Thomas and Kana gazed at the marvellous sunset. "Sometimes slowing down can be pretty cool," smiled Kana. Here is a shadow. Is this a shadow of Diesel or Percy? Well, this shadow is quite square and boxy, and it doesn't seem to have a funnel, so it must be Diesel. Now here's another shadow. But is this Kana or Kenji? This one is a bit more tricky because Kana and Kenji are very similar shapes. But there's something above the shadow which may be able to help us. These zigzag lines are Speedy electric zaps. Which engine has these zaps? That's right, Kana. Here is one final shadow. Is this a shadow of Thomas, or is this a shadow of Whiff? This shadow has a very tall funnel. There also appears to be something on the shadow's face. Which of these two engines has the tallest funnel? And which engine has something on their face? Whiff. Whiff has a very tall funnel, and he wears glasses. So this is a shadow of Whiff. Well done, everyone. Seeing is believing. One day Merlin came to Sodor to deliver steel and visit his friend Thomas. Merlin was an experimental engine, and he believed he could turn invisible, but really all he did was let off a lot of steam and stay visible. Merlin decided to make himself invisible to surprise Thomas. He closed his eyes and waited as Thomas chuffed into the docks. "Is there an invisible engine around here? It sounds like my friend Merlin, but I can't see him anywhere," wondered Thomas. Merlin opened his eyes and announced, "Here I am, Thomas." Thomas was pleased to see his friend. He was too polite to tell Merlin he couldn't really turn invisible. That day, Merlin and Thomas met lots of engines as they worked. Merlin told them all he could turn invisible. As Merlin and Thomas chuffed through the countryside, they met Trevor, the traction engine. Trevor was keen to show off his new steam whistle. "It makes you sound like a big engine," Thomas told him. That evening at Tidmouth Sheds, all the engines were talking excitedly about Merlin, the disappearing engine. Percy was the only engine who hadn't seen him. "I want to see the disappearing engine too," said Percy, sadly. The next day Percy set off to find Merlin. He looked all over Sodor. He was just about to give up when he heard a very loud whistle. He couldn't see anyone, so he thought it must be Merlin. "Wait till I tell Thomas," he said, rushing off. He didn't realise it was Trevor blowing his new steam whistle. "I heard his whistle and I looked around all the tracks, but there was no engine anywhere," said a very excited Percy when he was back at his shed. Percy believed he had seen the invisible engine, and that made him very happy. Here's Nia. Hello, Nia. Look closely at this picture and see if you can count how many of each of the following things you can see. First, how many clouds can you count? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 clouds in the sky. How many helicopters can you count? 1. There is 1 helicopter, and this helicopter has a name. Do you know who it is? That's right, it's Harold the helicopter. How many trees are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 trees. Next, let's count how many horses we can see. 1, 2. There are 2 horses. And finally, how many sheep can you find? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 sheep. There are 4 sheep. Now it's time for another story. Creaky Cranky. It was the day of the children's big party on Sodor. Thomas was waiting at the docks for Cranky to unload decorations to make the party look extra fun. "Oh, hurry up, Creaky Cranky," teased Thomas. "Are the decorations too heavy for you?" Thomas's joke made Cranky even grumpier than usual. "They're not too heavy for me," Cranky said. "You're not strong enough to pull anything lighter than fluff, Tiny Thomas." Thomas didn't like Cranky's joke one bit. "I'm as strong as any other engine," huffed Thomas. "You're not as strong as me," laughed Cranky. Thomas was so cross that instead of delivering the decorations for the party, he decided to prove Cranky wrong. "If you can lift such heavy loads," said Thomas, "then lift me, Cranky." Cranky wanted to prove he was the strongest, so with a creak and a crank, he slowly lifted Thomas high into the air. Then there was trouble. Cranky's crane arm creaked and croaked, then it broke. Thomas was stuck high up. Just then Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "Thomas, what are you doing up there?" he boomed. "You have both caused confusion and delay, and now Cranky is broken." Thomas and Cranky felt terrible. Soon some workmen helped to lower Thomas back down to the ground. Thomas knew he had to put things right. He asked Spencer to take the decorations to the party, while he raced to the steamworks to get new parts for Cranky. Thomas got the new parts, then he hurried back to the docks. Cranky was very glad to see Thomas. "Thank you, Thomas," he said. "I'm sorry, Cranky," said Thomas. "I don't really think you're creaky." "And you're not tiny," Cranky chuckled. Now it's time to answer some questions about the last 2 stories you just heard. Question 1. What is the name of the engine visiting Sodor in Seeing is Believing? Was it Merlin or Trevor? That's right, Merlin was visiting Sodor from the mainland. Trevor has lived on Sodor for many, many years. Question 2. What magic power does Merlin think he has? Does he think he can fly? Or does he think he can disappear? That's right, Merlin believes he can disappear. He can't really though. Question 3. Which engine does Cranky lift in Creaky Cranky? Was it Thomas or was it James? That's right, Cranky lifted Thomas up. That's all for now. See you again soon. Bye. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a like below as well as commenting and subscribing. And you can also press the bell next to the subscribe button so that you never miss a video. See you again soon. Bye.